Snooker Loopy, nut or wee, me and him, and them and war me. We'll show you what we can do with a load of balls and a snooker cue. Pop the red, then screw back for the yellow, green, brown, blue, pink and black. Snooker Loopy, nut or wee, we're all Snooker Loopy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the daily updates throughout the Crucible for the Snooker Loopy Podcast. My name is Tom Marvellous Mayhew and I'm joined by Joe Happy Hannard.
Good evening, Hazel. Good evening, everybody at home. Welcome back to the Snooker Loopy Podcast.
And both of those nicknames, Joe, were sent in by listener Ian, who's a big fan of the podcast. He really loves it. He's always saying, whenever it's been about 2 weeks without a podcast, he goes, "When's the next podcast? I really miss it." And he's a lovely man.
Where's the next podcast going?
That's exactly how he sounds. But there we go. He sent those in. We've had a listener version of Snooker Loopy, and now we've got a listener nicknames being sent in, which is lovely. So thank you, Ian. And I'm pretty happy being marvellous. I think Happy Hannard's lovely as well. So yeah, how good's that?
Yes, well, it's better than Jumping Joe Hannard, isn't it? Because I know they called Jack Lazowski Jumping Jack Lazowski at some point, so... Because I assume they couldn't think of anything else beginning with J other than Jester, but then they came up with Jackpot, so, you know.
Jack in a box? That could be something.
Jack in a box, yeah. Could be.
He's going to spring out a box.
Could be.
It's Jack in a box Lazowski.
Yes. But yeah, it's been quite a quiet day at the Crucible today, hasn't it, Tom? It's one of those bizarre Thursdays where it's a 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock start, and obviously Ronnie O'Sullivan only had 2 frames to finish off, so yeah, that one was finished off pretty quickly. Funnily enough, Jackson Page didn't come back and win that match.
I would have loved to have seen the odds on Jackson Page turning that around. I imagine it would have been... We'd be talking Leicester City odds, mate. It would have been 5,000 to 1.
And rightfully so.
But yeah, as you say, not much action today. Ronnie finished his match. Milkins against Gilbert started, and it's pretty close, 5-3 to Gilbert, but that could go either way. As we record, Higgins is playing Jamie Jones. I think Higgins was 6-4 up when I last watched it.
Yeah, he's now 7-4, I think.
He's going to do what I said he might do. He's fighting for his top 16 place, so I think he's going to end up winning it just to stay in the top 16. And the other match that started, Tom Ford against Judd Trump. And interestingly, Tom Ford said in an interview before the match, this is his first ever best of 25 match. He's never played one before.
Yeah, I was watching the same interview, and I found that a baffling comment, but it makes sense if you've never won a match at the Crucible, you've never played a best of 25. So until last year, Luca Bracel had never played a best of 25. So it just shows how different the World Championship is compared to every other event out there. And good to see and good to hear, really, that somebody's looking forward to possibly playing in a longer match, because so many times over the years I've heard people going, I don't really want to play 25 frames, but I think I'd love it. I think I'd love a long match at the Crucible. Maybe one day, who knows?
Oh, that's a thing, Joe. That's a thought. It could be. How old do you need to be to enter the seniors? That might be your route in, mate.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for crushing me dreams within 20 seconds of that statement. I was just dreaming about playing at the Crucible, playing at best of 25, and he says, well, you might play in the seniors. Yeah, a best of 7 or best of 5 against Rodney Goggins.
Mate, don't pretend you wouldn't be ecstatic with a best of 5 against Rodney Goggins.
Oh, as long as it was at the Crucible, that would be all right. I don't think I'd want to play best of 5 with Rodney Goggins at the Hazel Grove Snooker Centre.
Hazel,
the Hazel Grove.
My mum was talking about her friend who's called Hazel the other day because it was her birthday. And I kept laughing, and it's all your fault that I was laughing because I just kept thinking, Hazel. You see, what you should have done is got Dennis Taylor to do a memo saying happy birthday, Hazel. The other match, moving swiftly on, the other match last night, other than John Higgins starting off, was the Ryan Day Barry Hawkins match, and we have another seed gone, Tom, and it's Ryan Day, and I think it was in our preview video
or maybe one of our individual videos on our channels, and somebody was saying that Barry Hawkins would be the happiest out of anybody with his draw against Ryan Day, and I couldn't see that because Ryan Day's former top 10 player, still very much at the top of the game, so it was a confusing comment to me, and well, it's been very much disproved, hasn't it, with how Ryan Day played.
Ryan Day, he's provisionally in the top 16 for the end of the season. So it's the closest you would get to being drawn against a fellow top 16 player. So it is really the worst draw that anyone could have hoped for. I mean, that's the interesting thing about all the qualifiers doing well, is now, obviously, we've got Lisowski against Bingham, and whoever wins is going to be a qualifier in the quarterfinals. There's guaranteed at least one qualifier in the quarterfinals.
Well, we've got a guarantee too, because C is playing Jack Jones as well. So we've got two.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Two qualifiers guaranteed in the quarterfinal, and plenty of seeds that are guaranteed to drop out because of they're playing each other now. So yeah, very, very interesting, I think, how the draw is opening up, and yeah, it's going to be fascinating over this weekend. Yeah, it remains to be seen who's going to come out on top. But Ronnie looking ominous, sounding ominous as well, some of his comments post-match. I know some people were a little bit upset about him saying that he's possibly the only player capable of winning a world title in his 50s, even though Mark Williams will be 50 this time next year.
Yeah, I think that was just him running his mouth and getting carried away, because usually he's very respectful to the class of 92. Usually he'd go, it's me, Higgins and Williams. That's the crazy thing, really, though, isn't it, about Ronnie, in that there's definitely an argument to be made that his 40s has been the most successful decade of his career. Considering how good he was when he was 17, and then in his 20s and his 30s.
Yeah.
You just think, is he going to just keep getting better? Is he going to be winning? Could he win a world title at 100, Joe? That should be the question.
It's a little bit like tennis, and I don't know how much you actually follow real life tennis, but I know you follow virtual tennis a lot, Thomas. Sorry, Tom.
Wow.
Getting very formal here. I'll just get
Joseph.
the dicky ball out and,
Are you a Joe or a Joseph?
I am a Joseph, yeah.
I thought you seemed like a Joseph. I thought so. There we go. I'm a Thomas as well, so there we are. If we ever did a really, as you say, a formal podcast, we'd be Thomas Mayhew and Joseph Hannard. Oh, I don't like it. No.
Yeah, oh dear. I haven't heard that name for a long time. It feels like when Darth Vader gets called Anakin by Luke in Return of the Jedi, and he's like, that name has no meaning anymore. That's how that feels.
In one of the old World Snooker games, there was a player called Alfred Burden, which just doesn't suit him at all.
Well, yeah, it's there's a few like that.
Alistair
Carter, of course, yeah. I was thinking this before. Thinking of Tom Ford. I think Tom Ford was one of my first ever career modes on World Snooker 2005, because I don't know if you can remember, but you could play a career mode as one of the players back then, but you could only play as one of the bottom 64 at the start until you had ranked yourself in the top 16. You couldn't pick a top 16 player and do a Ronnie career mode. So Tom Ford was one of my first career modes, I seem to remember. I guess just because to an 8-year-old me, he was a guy with black hair and, he looked reasonably young. So, okay, I'll be Tom Ford.
And only 19 years later, Joe, you're going to go all the way to the Crucible to cheer him on.
Yes, I've made the pilgrimage to go and see him.
Time now to welcome our next two players. Firstly, a four-time ranking event quarter-finalist, the AB of London, Alfie Burden, and the reigning German Masters champion, the captain, Ali Carter.
One thing I remember, Joe, while editing yesterday's podcast, is there's something I've not shared with you, a little secret thing that I did, because during the Judgment Day coverage, most of the time when it's Judgment Day and the commentators don't have much to do, they say, can you tweet us in and we can read out a question or an opinion or something like that. And I try and get one on whenever I can. In the past, I've asked Rob Walker why he was so excited about Yang Bingtao's carpet, and I did actually get one on during Judgment Day this year. Did you hear it?
I haven't heard it.
I will send this to you now, Joe, and for the listeners, I will edit it in now. This is what I asked them during Judgment Day.
Oh, God.
We've had a lot of comments coming in about Dominic Dale's potential walk-on music in light of the new beau in his life. Here's one that'll raise a smile to your face, Dave, your co-commentator and former champion du monde for Eurosport. Tom Mayhew, can somebody ask Joe Johnson to re-release his version of Everlasting Love? I want to listen to it on Spotify.
Yeah, I think he's still got about 300 copies of that in his garage, actually. You want to pop round?
You do want to pop round. He's still got about 300 copies, apparently. That doesn't even sound that many.
Well, we can pop round, Joe.
Yeah, we've been invited by Dave Hendon to go and have a cup of tea with Joe Johnson. I think we have to try and get Joe Johnson on the podcast now. I've never thought of this, but we have to try and get Joe Johnson on the podcast to talk about his version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Well, just the fact we know that Rob Walker and Dave Hendon have heard that question, I hope it means one of them has just said to Joe Johnson, Joe, have you heard, some people want you to re-release Everlasting Love. They want it on Spotify.
That's a cracker. That is a cracker, Tom.
And it's so funny because most of the questions during Judgment Day, most of the things people are sending in are just quite dry, like, I think this person will win the World Championships.
What colour tie are you wearing, Rob?
It is just stuff like that. And in the middle of it, it's just them going, oh, I've got a question here. Can you ask Joe Johnson if he can re-release Everlasting Love?
Yeah, I mean, we've got to keep trying, Tom. We've got to keep trying.
Is he at the World Seniors?
I think he will be. I assume so.
We should go to the World Seniors and try and track him down.
Yes. Yeah, we should. We should go, Joe. Hey, Joe.
Now that is a niche, a very niche reference to F1 2010 that Joe has thrown in there. If anyone got that, congratulations, because it was probably just me.
There's one person that I think will have got it, Matt, who is a big fan of the podcast and obviously put together our wonderful Cue the Music spreadsheet together. So, yeah, he will have got that one, I think. Good evening, Matt, if you're out there. But he's been enjoying the podcast. I've had a few messages from him.
Oh, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it, mate.
Joe! Hey, Joe!
Speaking of Cue the Music, Joe, do you have one for us today?
I do. Well, Tom, obviously I've sent you it. You'll remember back to yesterday. What happened yesterday?
We had the Geordie version of Snooker Loopy sent in by Rob Walker's brother, Ryan Walker, and it was an absolute treat. Absolutely loved it. It was fantastic.
And it was our first ever sort of submission by a fan that started a new trend for us, I guess. We asked you guys yesterday, we said, who out there ever wants to send in their version of Snooker Loopy? And I had a message today from Matt, in fact, and he said, hi, Joe, here's something a little bit special for the podcast. So you check your link now, Tom, that I've sent you, and enjoy.
Good afternoon, Snooker Loopy Podcast. Good afternoon, Joe, the Captain Goodspeed Hannard, my good friend, and of course the legend, Mr. Tom Mayhew. Of course, big fan of the podcast. It was a privilege to create you guys the Snooker Loopy spreadsheet and league table. I hope that's coming of good use. But I couldn't help notice that on the last podcast, a amateur snooker player who was a Geordie sang their own version of Snooker Loopy. Now, I'm not an amateur snooker player anymore. I used to be. Still trying to play as and when I can. And you never know, me and Joe might cross cues at some point. That sounds a little bit wrong. But I'm looking to start in a local league. I'm not that far from Joe, so you never know. We might finally cross cues and see who is the better YouTuber when it comes to the snooker table. But I couldn't have a Geordie sing Snooker Loopy because, as Joe knows, me being from Middlesbrough, everything we do in Middlesbrough is better than everything that our neighbours do up in Newcastle. So I thought I'd sing you guys the version as well. So, Snooker Loopy nuts are we, me and him and them and me. We'll show you what we can do with a load of balls and a snooker cue. Pot the red, then screw back for the yellow, green, brown, blue, pink and black. Snooker Loopy nuts are we, we're all snooker loopy. Ba-bum-bum, ba-bum-bum. Cheers, guys. Keep up the great pod. Keep up all the hard work. You're both an absolute pair of legends. And I look forward to many Snooker Loopy podcasts coming soon.
Oh, that was brilliant.
Thank you very much, Matt. That was awesome. And I have to say, lots of little digs in there at me, you know, which doesn't help his score with me. but I mean, he started it with a good afternoon. Good afternoon, Hazel.
Well, he started it with a good afternoon. He ended it with the Dennis bum, which is what Dennis did on his one, which I really liked.
He did. I mean, perhaps what we haven't considered here, Tom, is that it could be Dennis himself using AI technology to sound like Matt. It could be.
Dennis, we're on to you, mate. We're on to you. I'm waggling my finger like you did in that final, because we're on to you.
We're on to you. Oh, dear. Oh, no, that was cracking. Thank you very much, Matt, for that. Obviously, thank you for all of your support. You know, I've known Matt quite a while now through F1 and all sorts. So thanks for getting in touch. And I know he is a big fan of the impressions, particularly John Virgo. And, of course, Dennis, thank you for sending that in. I'm going to put Tom under pressure now because yesterday he put me on the spot saying I need to give my ratings for Ryan Walker's version of Snooker Loopy. So when Tom's ready, after he's, told us his general thoughts of the whole thing, he can give us a rating.
I think Matt is just a fan of the Dennis impression because Matt is Dennis, as you just said. I think this finally is making sense in my head. It's finally explaining it.
There wasn't any, where's the cue ball going in there, was there?
No, but there was the bum, which I think that was Dennis coming through. Dennis can't stop himself doing that. And even though he was trying to pretend to be Matt, I think the bum, we gave you away, Dennis. We're on to you, mate. We're on to you. We know it's you.
Yes. Hazel would know that voice a mile off, wouldn't she? Yeah. I also,
she would.
Was a bit taken aback by Matt's offer of crossing queues with me.
I'd love to see a video of you two crossing queues, mate.
I'm sure you would, Tom. I'm sure you would.
We might have to save it for Snooker Loopy Late Night Extra.
Yeah, Snooker Extra, yeah. I mean, we haven't talked about Snooker Extra for a long time, have we, Tom? So,
well, Matt's given us a reason to bring it back, so there we go. But I did enjoy Matt's version a lot. I like the link to Middlesbrough because interesting fact about me, Joe, is that my grandpa was actually from Middlesbrough. He grew up in Middlesbrough.
Oh.
He was born in a hospital in Newcastle, but he grew up in Middlesbrough. He supports the borough. So just like Matt, he's a fellow fan of the borough. So, you've got that connection. My grandpa also likes snooker, and he did send me this WhatsApp yesterday, which I'll quickly read to you. He said, "Hi, Thomas. I hope you're watching The Master. Mind you, he's got no opposition, and I feel sorry for the poor chap. Love you, Grandpa." So there we go. That's my grandpa texting me during the Ronnie match. It was quite sweet. He's 93 years old. And my grandpa's called Ronnie. The only Ronnie I know in real life is my grandpa. So there we are.
Goodness me.
So I do warm a lot to the Middlesbrough connection. I like the fact that Matt did it. I feel like we have to give Matt at least an extra point for making us the league table, which has been very useful. And we will put that somewhere publicly, probably when we do some sort of rebrand and relaunch after the World Championship. I'm thinking we're probably going to have some sort of social media pages or a website, something like that. So that will be up somewhere, and it has been very useful. So thank you, Matt. We do appreciate it. And as for the score, I think the fact he's from Borough, I think the fact he said about bum at the end, and I think the fact he's secretly Dennis means that maybe he should get the same score as Dennis, because it's just Dennis again. It's just AI Dennis. Let's give him an 8.
But Dennis got a 7.
Did he? Let's give him a 7. Okay, 7, and that's fair. 7. I thought Dennis got an 8. I'm thinking of Joe Johnson.
Oh, okay.
Let's give him a 7, because it is Dennis. Thank you again, Dennis. Matt, thank you for sending it in. We really do appreciate it. Lovely to hear from you, mate.
Honestly, I thought the way you were going on there, Tom, he was going to get a 10. I thought he was going to get a 10 from Len. He didn't. He got a 7.
This will be the first time that Matt has to edit the spreadsheet and put a score for himself in, so that's interesting.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've stolen his thunder now because I'm editing my own version of his spreadsheet. But he's more than welcome to keep editing his own. Yeah, we've got a 7 in there for Matt from Tom. You know what? I was gonna go a little bit higher than that. Obviously, we gave Ryan an 8 and a 7.75. Now, he did change some of the lyrics to suit his Geordie accent, which I did appreciate with Ryan. He put some effort into it, but Matt did a lot of sucking up to us, Tom, in the intro, and that does count for something.
He did say that Middlesbrough was better than Newcastle, which I don't think you looked happy about.
He did. I wasn't happy about that, no. And he said that maybe one day we'll cross queues and see who the best snooker YouTuber is, but I'm not even sure that should be up for debate, to be honest with you, Tom. So I'm gonna give him a 7 as well. So that puts him on par with Man's Long Pot by Peter Devlin, Snooker Loopy by Stuart Bingham, Green Green Grass of Home by Dominic Dale, and My Old Man's a Dustman, Stephen Hendry's Rubbish. So there you go.
There we go, Matt. You're an esteemed company there.
Yeah, I just remember, because obviously Stephen Hendry's Rubbish was one of our very, very first episodes. Weirdly, episode 3 of the Snooker Loopy podcast was about Stephen Hendry's Rubbish. That's just bonkers to me. But yeah, I remember telling Rachel that the name of our next podcast, or the title, was Stephen Hendry's Rubbish, and she was like, "Why are you being so mean about Stephen Hendry?" I went, "No, Hazel, it's it's the name of his outfit."
Have you started calling your girlfriend Hazel? Because this is troubling if so.
No, I have not.
She's like, Joe, you're up late watching snooker. Come to bed. And you're like, "In a minute, Hazel." And she's like, "Will you just call me?" You're like, "Oh, nothing.
Yes. So that puts Matt into 15th place, distinctly mid-table in our Cue the Music rankings. Still topped by Snooker Loopy by the Matchroom Mob and Everlasting Love by John Virgo, brackets Joe Hannard.
How are you at the top?
I'm not sure.
You've not even released that version yet.
Everlasting love. There you have it. Thank you very much, Matt. And obviously, if anybody at home would like to get involved, then either send myself or Tom a message, email, whatever you want to send. And if we can start getting to the point where people are sending us videos of themselves doing it, a bit like the memos that we get, we can start rating whether you're twirling around a car park or sat in the back of an office or sat in Spain. We can do that.
Spain?
Well, Virgo was presumably in Spain when he did it.
Oh, well, fair. I thought you were expecting our fans to go on holiday to Spain and go, to their wife, can you look after the kids for a bit? I've got to go film this video of me singing Snooker Loopy on the beach.
Well, hey, if anybody can do it on the North Korea border, then I think that will get automatic 10 points from me. Because that would be a risky move to go and get a bit of 10 seconds of fame on the Snooker Loopy podcast. And, you're not too far then from attending the China Open or something on your travels. So.
Or prison.
Oh, dear.
But there we are, Joe. Fantastic Cue the Music. Thank you, Matt. What a great fan input we've had recently. Matt and Ryan and Ian and all these lovely people. Thank you guys so much.
And of course, Aidan, who came up to me at the Tour Championships as well.
Yeah, it feels like we are kind of getting a bit of momentum, a bit more of a community feel, which is what I kind of love and what I think is One of the lovely things about snooker is how it can bring people together. So thank you guys so much for getting in touch. We really do appreciate it.
It's nice that we're building this sort of community, because there's been a lot of talk about the World Championship moving from the Crucible, but soon the Snooker Loopy podcast will be moving from the Tom Mayhew channel, won't it? So people will have to keep their eyes peeled from that perspective.
I have sold out to the official Saudi Arabian YouTube channel. They've offered me big money, Joe. They offered me they offered me a $5, and I was like,
Yes.
fair enough, mate.
We're going to be called the Riyadh Season Snooker Loopy podcast.
Absolutely. But yeah, we've got little ideas for a bit of a relaunch, a bit of a rebrand, and there'll be new things. There'll be a website, or some social media web pages. We'll look at how much a website costs, I'm sure, but there'll be little things like that we've put in place. There'll be a dedicated YouTube channel. Hopefully there'll be some sort of merch. We're going to have little things. I mean, if you want a badge that says Evening Hazel, we're probably going to provide it to you. So there we go. We're going to have stuff like that.
Yeah.
Considering how often we talk about snooker tat, we need some snooker tat of our own, Joe. It makes perfect sense.
Of course we do. We need our own trading cards and betting set and all sorts,
I've had hours of fun with my sticker book.
There we are. So thank you guys all for tuning in. Please let us know, what did you think of the other listeners' attempts at Snooker Loopy? If you guys want to respond to that, you're more than welcome to. Let us know, who do you think was better? Do you think Matt was better than Ryan? Do you think that Middlesbrough is better than Newcastle? All the big questions we're asking you today. Please do let us know. And let us know your second round predictions, because we're probably not going to do a full rundown of it, simply because we're going to be doing daily, so it doesn't make sense for us to do a full rundown. But if anyone wants to let us know your full predictions for round 2, please do put it in the comments. And Joe will be at the Crucible very soon, so today would be the last day to leave a comment telling Joe to shout out the word escort. Please do tweet him at Captain Goodspeed, shout escort.
And today will be the last day that you can buy me the Stephen Hendry action figure as well, so...
If you like, just go on Joe's YouTube and go on a random video, maybe on the video of his Middlesbrough Marathon series on Football Manager back in 2015, go on that and just comment on an episode saying shout escort, because Joe loves nothing more than when people comment unrelated comments on his YouTube videos. It really makes his day, so... If a few of you could go on his old series and just write shout escort, he'll love it, mate. He'll absolutely love it.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you. I hope he edits that out. He won't.
No, I won't.